Explain to what extent the ideas of Steve Biko and the Black consciousness ideology influenced South Africans to resist apartheid in 1970. To the great extent, the ideas of Steve Biko and the Black consciousness ideology influenced South Africans to resist apartheid in 1970. The nature and aims of the Black consciousness, a renewal of anti-apartheid struggle in the 1970s, where Bantu Bonke Stephen Biko was responsible for the BCM. Black consciousness is an attitude and a way of life. Black consciousness filled the political vacuum life by political activists who were inland, and the Black consciousness gave hope to Black South Africans to change apartheid regime. The aim of the Black consciousness movement was to promote psychological freedom and independence by getting rid of inferiority. Conscientize Black South Africans and instill a sense of self-worth and self-confidence to advocate Black pride. This was made by solidarity and unity among all Africans to encourage self-reliance and discourage reliance on what South Africans. The role of Steve Biko was to protect or support Black people. Biko once said, "The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the man of the oppressed." It was from the idea that new philosophy of the BC emerged in South Africa, which motivated Black South Africans to stand for their rights. Steve Biko became interested in anti-apartheid political from an early age, receiving his education at the Catholic school. He wanted to enroll as a medical student at the Black section of the University of Natal Medical School. At medical school, Steve Biko joined the Union of South African Students, NUSAS, a multiracial student body. NUSAS, however, was dominated by white liberals. Steve Biko became disillusioned within the organization, treated Black South African students. He was convinced that a Black South African student needed their own organization in which they could speak for themselves instead of relying on white liberals to help them. The finals for Biko was NUSAS organized a conference in 1967 at which Black South African students were made to stay in a Black township in Grahamstown. There was a turning point in the history of blacks to support the support for NUSAS. In July 1969, Steve Biko and other minded Black South African students decided to leave NUSAS and form South African Organization, SASO. Steve Biko believed that what liberal South Africans should not play the role in the liberation of a Black South African. He was of the opinion that because white benefited from apartheid, they could never fully understand its effects. He specially targeted white liberals who were genuine in their efforts to combat oppression, but according to Steve Biko, they did not fully grasp the majority of tasks. In his writings, Steve Biko described white liberals as the people who say that they have black souls wrapped in white skin. He argued in white in whites doing all the talking and blacks listening. Steve Biko believed that the greatest role that white liberals could play was to change the attitude of all South Africans. Black South African university students were responsible for the formation of Black Consciousness Movement. SASO was formed by Steve Biko to promote the ideas of Black consciousness. SAPO's manifest of 1971 defined Black people as the group of people who by law or tradition were politically and socially discriminated in South African society. They identified themselves as unity in the struggle toward the realization of the aspiration. They manifested to spell out that SASO was a Black student organization working for liberation of the Black man. First, from psychological oppression which was influenced upon him through an inferiority complex. Secondly, from physical oppression by living a white racist society. Therefore, SASO adopted the slogan of "A Black is Beautiful." The Black Consciousness Movement had a number of political and community-based organizations, as the BPC acted as the political wing of the BCM, as it was also an umbrella organization. The Black Conversation was formed in 1972. It was aimed at spreading the Black consciousness to adults and working class Black South Africans. Hence, the main purpose of the BC was to liberate the South Africans from psychological and physical oppression. The Black People Convention embarked on a variety of projects designed to give practical to the philosophy of the BC. BCM at the Black empowerment through the creation of sustainable organization of community level. It was designed to train hundreds of followers who would in turn train thousands more with requisite lifelong skills. Zanempilo Community Health ZCH Centre in King Williamstown opened in January 1975 and appointed Dr. Mampele Rampele as its director. It was one of the first primary health care projects in South Africa and the most impressive community health initiative outside the public sector. The ZWELIHLE Trust Fund provided support to those who had been detained, imprisoned, banned. The fund provided their needs as they were often regarded as trouble market and had difficulty in finding jobs. It helped with the bursaries, scholarships, and paid for the funeral expenses as well as the purchase of clothes and furniture. The influence of the BCM played a central role in inspiring the youth of Soweto through its ideas and philosophy. BC became a national movement to advocate. BCM realized the importance of challenging apartheid. Steve Biko's speeches encouraged Black South Africans to reject apartheid. The impact of the BC ideas was the greatest among educated Africans and urban youth who were part of the liberation struggle. Black solidarity and self-reliance were actively encouraged by the BCM. Young people were sent into various communities to assist in the clinics and to set up the literacy campaign. By the 1970s, the BCM, the Black Consciousness Movement, had included a number of groups that joined it during the 1970s. BCM was able to bring about a renewed political awareness which inspires people to challenge apartheid regime. A number of SASO members became teachers once they graduated from the universities. They introduced BC ideas to learners, and the impact of the BC was greatest among urban youth. Therefore, the youth were motivated by the philosophy of BCM, which emphasized black identity. Some causes of the Soweto uprising: there were socio-economic issues in Soweto, as there was extremely overcrowding, and there was an endeavor provision of facilities such as transport, healthcare, housing, and recreation. These problems were compounded by the past influx control. The crisis black South Africans emerged as a result of a Bantu Education Act of 1953. The apartheid regime spent more time on white learners than on black learners. This resulted in severe shortage of classrooms, building, and equipment were of poor quality, and learning became difficult under these conditions. It was under the difficult circumstances that Afrikaans was introduced as the compulsory medium of instruction by the Minister of Bantu Education, MC Border. The 1976 Soweto uprising, apartheid regimes issued a directive to school in the southern Transvaal region, which includes Soweto, that mathematics, history, and geography were to be taught in Afrikaans from the beginning of 1976. The new language policy caused major difficulties for both teachers and students. So, schools' principal teachers at some Soweto schools refused to teach in Afrikaans. They were dismissed. Other teachers resigned in protest, and students began boycotting classes. Protest action began to spread, and by May, schooling was severely disrupted. In 1976, students started boycotting classes. The learners of SAMS prompted the boycott and called for complete boycott of June examination. Although the uprising started as a boycott against education policies, it became a general uprising against the white system of apartheid and repressive government policies, with teachers, parents, and workers supporting students. In the morning of 16 June 1976, students marched toward Orlando Stadium carrying placards with slogans such as "Afrikaans is the language of oppression."